to another weekly update this summer from the Work.knits podcast. My name is Lauren if you're landing on this video fresh, and I've been doing kind of regular fortnightly podcasts probably for the last just over a year. So please feel free to go back and recap on some of those. But for this summer, I am doing weekly short podcast updates, and it is so nice to be back again with you guys. The vibe this week has been chilled productivity, which I know sounds like a little bit of an oxymoron, but what I mean by that is I've actually taken all the pressure off myself to get my to-do list done, and I've just been taking things step by step, doing whatever it is that I can do within a day, but also taking time just to sit, enjoy being with friends, family, and yeah, we've got quite a lot done, but I don't feel like I've been kind of cracking through things. So it's been a great week. I hope you guys have had a really good week. I hope you are enjoying fitting these little weekly updates into your schedule. Please do let me know down below where this update fits in your schedule. Do you watch it whilst you're on the school run? Do you watch it during your morning cup of tea? Do you watch it for the 15 minutes knitting before bed that turns into 4 hours? Whatever it is, I'd love to hear down below. But yeah, let's get stuck into the update this week proper. I am wearing my Gallant Sweater Mohair edition by Kadri, but this is not in mohair. This is knit in Isaiah Highland wool in the shade Rhubarb, and I just love this as like a nice light throw-on layer between this and my summer's evening sweater. I have just been wearing the two of them non-stop for the last few weeks. Thank you so much for the warm reception to the Summer's Evening Sweater pattern launch a couple of weeks ago now. Yeah, really delighted. I will post the link below if you haven't yet had a chance to go and check out the pattern. Please feel free to do so. And yeah, it's finally feeling like summer here in the UK, which is delightful. Honestly, I thought we'd be waiting till kind of June, July for that to kick in. So all the summer garments mojo at the moment. That being said, got quite a varied mixture of things that I've knit on this week. I'll have a quick sip of tea and then I'll start to show you. On the theme of kind of just taking my foot off the gas a little bit and just doing what I enjoy, I have ended up picking up some whips that you guys haven't seen in a while. So one of them, I'm going to keep this in its glass jar, but one of them is my Scrappy blanket project. Now lots of these little tiny gorgeous colours or scraps of colour are from my advent swap that I did with Anne of my North Knit Corner. I will link Anne's podcast below. She has a lovely podcast full of all the details and all the stats. I am terrible at those, and it's something I really admire Anne for doing. She's so detailed in her updates and analysis of her work. So do go and check her out. But yeah, we swapped little advents for each other made up from scraps of yarn that we loved. And I don't know how we're gonna be able to see this, and my little seal has come off my lid. How am I gonna do this? I was gonna show you in the bottom there, I don't know if you can see, 1, 2, 3. Those are some triangles that I have knit up in the last week or so, as well as a couple of the ones you can see in here. These are little triangles. I'm not following really a set pattern. I am using 2.25mm needles, and I'm casting on 30 stitches, and then I'm decreasing a stitch on one side every other row. And the idea, and I haven't quite decided between knitting all my different colour triangles and then seaming them together in essentially like a fade of like shades of each colour, or whether I'm going to seam each coloured triangle together with a triangle knit in like a neutral colour, and then the whole blanket will be half this neutral, half these coloured triangles, but kind of in squares. I'm really not describing this very well. The Sweet Shop blanket by Laura Penrose. I think about that vibe where she's almost got those like squares made up of one coloured triangle and one neutral. That is the kind of one option of how I could seam this all together. That's probably a better way of describing it. But yeah, haven't decided yet. On the one hand, I'd probably whip through the colours and be able to plan the colours better if I was going to do like a fade. On the flip side, there's a chance the colours could not fade in the way I want them to, and the neutral would help just disperse that. That's my pondering. that's my bit of analysis for you. But yeah, so many scraps getting used up in this project, and I know I'd said that I kind of wanted to get it done by last Christmas, and that so totally didn't happen. I'm nowhere even close. But I do actually really want it done by this Christmas for multiple different reasons. That would feel really good to have all those, dropping my glass lid. That would feel really good to have all those scraps made up into something beautiful. So yeah, that's the first project I've been picking up this week. Oh, and I should say, those are not the only triangles I've knit on that project. I've got like a bag of them that's growing. Maybe if I continue with my mojo and continue to knit maybe 4 or 5 triangles a week, then maybe I can like show you in the next video where I've got up to with my different colours. That would be quite a good exercise for me as well, to be like group the balls of scrap yarn I've got and kind of figure out what's left. That might be a good idea. Okay, the next thing on my needles this week has been a new thing that I've cast on. This I'm quite excited about, even though I haven't done very much of it. So what am I talking about? This is it's going to be a summer top, and it's going to have a wrap element, but maybe not in the traditional location. Intrigue, mystery, guys. Yeah, I've had this in my head for a really long time. This is being knit up in Fonty Merlin, which are these really cute little bobbins that come with a little bobbin band. It's a kind of pure linen yarn, and you get 190 meters in 25 grams, and they suggest 2 to 2.5 millimeter needles. I'm using 3, and I'm using colour 564. It's gorgeous blue. I purchased this from the wonderful, beautiful knitters. As always, we'll link them down below. Fantastic shop in London that do really, really quick online shipping as well, if you are interested. But yeah, not much to say really at this point, other than the top will start with some raglan increases, but there's not going to be many of them. And yeah, that's all I'm going to say for now. Let's see how far I get. But it feels really beautiful. The one thing I would say about this yarn is what you see is what you get in terms of strand thickness. So it really is very fine, and it does not bloom. At least the swatch that I've done, that I've washed multiple times, has not bloomed. So all I'd say is don't buy it and start knitting with it on the assumption that it will bloom. There we go. That might be helpful. So yeah, that's a new little project on my needles. I'm going to have a sip of tea before I turn to 2 projects that you have seen before, one of which though you have not seen in a while. Oh, I just can't stop sipping this tea. You know when you get your tea at just the right temperature? I'm actually having some English breakfast tea, how very British of me, but we particularly love the West Country blend from Mr. Miles. If you ever get a chance to get your hands on it, go for it, it's just so good. Alrighty, the next thing I have been picking up this week is one you have not seen in a couple of weeks. I had previously shown you that I was working on the Big Love cardigan by Anchor Strict, and where I got to, I had knit the back panel. I had picked up for one shoulder, I think the right shoulder, and knit down to the length prescribed. And then I was on pause, and the reason I was on pause, and I was kind of saying to you guys when I last showed it on the podcast, I was saying that I wasn't sure if I needed to knit to a different length and almost convert to a different size, because it wasn't, I mean, my row gauge might be off, but it's a measurement that's stated, not just a number of rows, and I was hitting that measurement. And I was just looking at it and I was thinking, that is just not going to go like round my underarm. There's not enough circumference there. Now I am playing a little bit of a gauge sizing game with this one, because I am knitting the 3rd size, whereas I think if I was having the amount of positive ease the pattern suggests you have, then I should be knitting like the 5th size, something like that. So I've gone down a size. The thing that maybe I should have accounted for more is that the positive ease in the cardigan is mainly around the body and not around the arms. Anyway, let me show you where I've got to. So in a better display, this is the front with the shawl collar kind of folded over. I basically went ahead and picked up that second side and I have knit it to the length it needs to be. So I'm now onto the join under the arms. But yeah, as you can see, it's just quite, I mean, that's folded double, but that's your armhole. And that just does not feel right. Does it? So, like, you know, and then I was speaking to knitty friend Jess from Loom Wool, and she was saying, because she's knit a beautiful version of this, and she followed the instructions exactly, and she was saying, well, because of the way the collar's constructed, actually that ends up kind of dropping part way down your arm, so it's actually not like here, it's more like here. So then I was like trying to think, okay, and I've literally been sat here like doing this, like trying to wrap this around my arm and then trying to take measurements, and yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking, like, Jess said she just trusted the pattern and hers turned out beautifully, but I just don't know how much it's going to grow. And I think, so on the podcast before I'd said maybe I'll like block it and see how much it grows, because I am using, sorry, basic details on this that I'm missing out. I am using a strand of unspun, which is Wool Dreamers Manchalope, which is this bright orange, and I'm holding it with a strand of Holst Garn Chianti, which is the colour, on their Coast Base, which is their wool silk blend. I'm holding a strand of each together on 4mm needles. Yeah, 4mm. So it might really grow. But yes, at the moment, that's just not looking like that's going to fit any part of my arm. So we might need to do a little bit of playing around with the pattern. We shall see. The only thing I'm conscious of is by extending the length of the arm drop, you're also extending the length of this section of the collar instructions. That's my only thought, proportionately. We'll have a play. But guys, the main thing is, you know, I thought this project, I mean, the back piece I whipped up relatively quickly on my trip to Japan. The right hand shoulder was a bit slower, and then I was kind of worrying because of this, because of the texture that it's knit in. I thought it was going to take me a while, but I'm really getting into the flow of that texture. So actually, like, this left hand shoulder's only taken me like a day, maybe 2 days of on-off knitting. So I'm not too worried anymore about how long this will take me. So maybe I just need to go for it with lengthening these bits a bit more. Maybe that's the answer. Why not? Let's go for it. By the next update, I will have lengthened these bits. I'm not going to go for the block first. I'm just going to lengthen it, because I just don't think that's going to work currently. There we go. Decision made. Live on the podcast. So that has been my next whip that I have been working on. The final whip I've been working on has received a lot of attention since I last spoke to you guys here on the podcast last Thursday. What am I talking about? I am talking about, and it's inside out, this summer top design. So I think when I last spoke to you, it was like here, and now it's here. Let me turn this the right way round, because I have also done a little bit extra on the other end that I wanted to show you. She says. So I've also seamed together the starting end, and I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this. So I have used a 1.5mm crochet hook, although I'm sure you could use a 2mm, and I have seamed the two ends together. The crochet seam here is really, really important, rather than using kind of like a provisional cast on or some other form of cast on where you then split it out. Yeah, the seam's really vital to the design. But anyway, so I've seamed one end. I have then knit this much. This is going to go round your bust this way. So I am kind of just under halfway. This won't do the full distance around the bust because we are going to be inserting a placket down the side. So to give you guys some more sneak peeks on this particular design, I had mentioned that I was going to use a kind of interesting fastening technique. Well, we are going to be using hook and eye tape. So there'll be instructions in the pattern for how to insert this, but we're going to be using tapes of hooks and eyes down the side to secure the top. So I am so excited. I feel like this design is really combining my sewing knowledge from all the way back in the day when I almost went into kind of costume for theatre. I was doing a lot of work with a wedding dressmaker and a tailor. I'm kind of combining knowledge from back then with my knitting knowledge, and it's really coming together in this design for something that hopefully looks very like couture, very made, like ready to wear, shop bought, and yet will be made by you for your exact proportions. That is the plan. If you have missed recent updates and haven't seen this yet, just a little update on what I'm knitting it in. I'm knitting this in KFO Pure Silk, knitting for Olive Pure Silk, in the colourway Olive. And this is 250 meters per 50 gram ball. They recommend a 3mm needle. I explained in the last episode, like classic design process, I re-knit this several times, and in doing so, I've changed my needle size a couple of times. So I'm now knitting this on a 2.5mm needle, which is my standard sock needle circumference. So the idea will be, that will be what I'll recommend to you, is to knit on your standard sock needle. And you should be able to use whatever sock needles you already have in stash. I luckily have a cord that attaches to a 2.5 Chiagu, interchangeable, so I could do it at this kind of hat circumference, 16-inch, but I will be knitting parts of this on my little 9-inch circulars, and you will need a longer magic loop style needle, and there's also options to use magic loop for all of it. So yeah, but I've absolutely ploughed through this since changing the way I was constructing this, so I'm really excited by how this is progressing, so much so that I've actually had to order some more yarn from Beautiful Knitters to get this finished. I've got 2 more balls left of the olive green. I've used 1 already, so I think for a kind of medium-sized top, small to medium-sized top, it's going to take approximately 5 balls of yarn, so hopefully that's quite a good indicator. So yeah, that's my progress this week. It feels like it's been both a really knitty week and not really a knitty week. I spent quite a amount of time on this, which was really fun. I've spent maybe 2 hours or so over the last couple of days on my Big Love cardigan, and then 30 minutes on the little triangles. So it's not actually been huge quantities of knitting. I'm hoping to do more knitting this week, but yeah. So the only other thing I do have to show you is some spinning. It's not masses, and I don't have all the technical stats and details. Some of this still needs a bit of a wash and a set, but I'm finding toilet rolls a really handy thing to use as bobbins. For context, I just have a drop spindle. I don't have a wooden spinning wheel or an electric wheel. So yeah, I don't obviously get bobbins with a drop spindle, but when I need to ply, I find wrapping my single plies, around a toilet roll really helps, and then they run really nice and easily when I'm then plying onto my drop spindle. So there we go. I don't know if anyone needed that tip, but I'm really enjoying doing that. So I've recently spun this up. This was a really gorgeous silk wool combo. It's got neps in it. It's just stunning. I really enjoy it. And that same yarn I have plied with a single ply of some Polworth. I don't know how well I can show this. I mean, it's a little bit variegated, but I think on average this is probably like a DK weight. So my consistency is definitely getting better. I have no idea how much this weighs, but I think it's probably about 20 grams, maybe close to 30, 25, we'll see. But I think you're using that as a contrast in a hat, so I'm really pleased with that. And then on the same single ply of this that I used with the Polworth and this, there was a little bit left over, and so I plied that on itself to make this little nugget, which is probably not even 5 grams, but you can see more of the blue coming out there in the fibre on that kind of where I'm plying it with itself rather than the grey. But yeah, I'm just really pleased with how my spinning is coming along. It's a little bit chicken and egg, like would I spin more if I had a wheel of some variety? Probably yes. Would I use it enough to warrant the cost of a wheel? I don't know. But I do really enjoy spinning. The drop spindle is a little bit slow, and it's not that easy to pick up and put down, but and applying is definitely not that easy, but I do enjoy the finished results, so maybe I will keep going. So that's been another little update this week. So I think that is about everything I had to update you on this week. I am sorry this one's probably been a little bit longer than I usually intend for them to be, but I did say when I switched this format that I didn't want to decrease the level of detail that I was giving you guys and the level of analysis, so I hope this is kind of hitting that sweet spot. As you can see, I've kind of progressed a couple of projects a decent way in the last week or so. My hope, and I'm going to say it on here and then it's never going to happen, that's just going to be the way it goes, but my hope is to get some projects finished by the end of May. I've had that Big Love cardigan on my needles for weeks. I've had the Georgia sweater on my needles for months. I've got the terracotta sweater that's been on my needles for months. And then I've even got like the Costner scarf, which hasn't featured on here in a really long time. That's been on the needles for months. So there's just a few things that I really want to clear off the needles. Things like my summer top design, I want to keep moving that forward. That's not something I want to clear from the needle, so to speak, because I'm enjoying working on it and I want to make sure that I take my time on that design to get it really perfect. But yeah, there's just quite a few garments on the needles that I just want to kind of churn over. It'd be nice to start working on some fresh projects. I've had the yarn wound up to make a Maggie cardigan by Petite Knit for a really long time. I love the look of that cardigan ever since I first saw her short sleeve version. So yeah, there's a few things I really want to jump on my needles and I just need to make room for them. So guys, I will see you next week. Let's see how much I can get done. Would nice, as I say, it'd be nice to have an update where I'm kind of clearing the needles. And I hope in the meantime you have a wonderful time, have good knitting mojo, and stay safe. And I will see you very soon.